Hey everybody, Keith Dotson here, looking at a photograph I shot recently in Arizona with the Hasselblad 500 CM. Oh, how I love that big, clear viewfinder. This is Hahnemühle's new Photo Rag Matt Baryta, introduced in 2023. This is a matte paper with a Baryta layer and Hahnemühle's ink receiving layer to give crisp prints and rich blacks. Here's my first test print on Hahnemühle Photo Rag Matt Baryta, and while I like it, I have to say the paper is not exactly what I expected. Since it has a Baryta coating and it's a matte paper, I'd hoped for a coated paper with a very matte satin finish. But to me, the Baryta coating is not even detectable, and the paper has very much the appearance of an uncoated matte paper. But unlike a lot of matte papers, it does produce very sharp details and very black blacks, and a lot of contrast. It's 308 GSM, made of 100% cotton substrate, and it's 88.6% white with no optical brighteners. Also be aware that at the time of this video, the B&H website lists this paper with some incorrect details. I think it's an oversight, but they list it as being heavier and more glossy than it really is. As you saw at the beginning of the video, I shot this in Arizona with my Hasselblad 500 CM on Cinestill XX black and white film at 250 ISO. The paper holds the soft gray of the sky very well, but the shadows went very dark. I'll show you comparison prints on other papers in a minute. First, let's go into Photoshop to look at the scan on the screen. As you can see, the shadow areas hold a lot of detail even in this super harsh Arizona light. Watch the info palette and the K panel on the right, which stands for black. Most of these darks are well below 90%. Zero gloss on this paper surface. Of course, I plan to compare this to other matte surface papers, but first let's compare it to one of the best photo papers on the market in my opinion, Hahnemühle's Photo Rag Baryta. I kind of use this as the gold standard of how I like my prints to look. Obviously it's glossier and it holds sharpness and tones exceptionally well. Here's the matte Baryta on the left and the Photo Rag Baryta on the right. Here again is the new Photo Rag Matt Baryta. There's not a lot of details in the shadows on this. While the Matt Baryta is 308 GSM, overall it looks and feels less substantial in the hand than do other papers, like this Photo Rag Baryta, but also less than the Canson Infinity Arch 88 we'll see momentarily. This is the Photo Rag Baryta, and even though the video may not show it well, there's a lot more detail in the shadows here. Once again, the Hahnemühle Photo Rag Matt Baryta. Now for comparison, here's the Arch 88, a bright white cotton paper made by Arch in France for Canson Infinity. I raved about this paper in the introductory video I made previously, and for me, if it was just a straight competition between these two papers, the Arch would win every time. It has no OBAs, but it's very bright white, and as you'll see, the surface prints beautifully, and the shadows don't close up the way they did on the Photo Rag Matt Baryta. And even though the photo papers are not for touching, it feels more substantial in the hand. Look below that front fender. You can see there's a rod connecting it to the frame. It was barely visible in the Matt Baryta print. This is Hahnemühle William Turner, a textured watercolor style paper that prints very well. Turning it against the light so you can see the texture. You'll notice in the side-by-side that it's the least white of any of the papers in this grouping. This is Hahnemühle Bamboo from their ecologically minded Naturals line. I also made an entire video about that line of papers if you're interested. I should say the camera is making all these papers look a little more harsh and contrasty than they really are. The best way to see a photograph is always with your own eyes, and you'll want to test the papers yourself for a final judgment. Now let's place all the papers together. Okay, so we've looked at one scan on a variety of papers. Now let's look at a variety of scans on just the Hahnemühle Photo Rag Matt Baryta. I shot this with a Hasselblad 500 cm 80mm lens on Kodak T-Max 100 at Joshua Tree National Park. I have to say I do love this print. It's sharp, contrasty, with the blue sky rendered in a nice smooth gray. This is the south rim of the Grand Canyon shot on Cinestill XX at 250 ISO. Again, I really like the look of this print. Those subtle high-level clouds look great. Next, we're back at Joshua Tree with the T-Max 100 again. You can see how black the black's print on this paper. Very good and rich for a matte surface paper. Sharp, holds the details beautifully. Back to the Grand Canyon and the Cinestill again. I signed this one to see how well it would take a signature. Sometimes the ink receiving layer seems to resist the pencil mark just slightly, but this one was fine. Now bear with me, I know, but I love this old car and that wide open landscape, so I shot it from a lot of focal ranges and angles. The shadows here feel too harsh to me. A little shadow detail would have been nice. I shot this one on my Sony A7R4, and this is where I inexplicably began experiencing printing problems. After a half dozen flawless prints, suddenly the paper began misbehaving. I like the look of the print, but look, I had a head strike and the paper shifted at the tail end of the run, making it have a double image appearance. So I tried again. Even worse. And again and again. Now printers can be finicky for sure, so I thought I'd run a different paper through to see if it was the printer or the paper causing the problem. I ran the Arches 88 through with this image. And guess what? A gorgeous, flawless print. No head strikes. So who knows what happened there? Well, I hope this brief introduction to one of Hahnemühle's newest fine art photo papers was useful. Leave a comment with your experience with it. And thanks for watching. Be sure to visit my website at keithdotson.com.